After you wrote that book, and it was very successful and well reviewed, you wrote a book on Andrew Jackson,
Right.
from your native Tennessee. And when I was younger, the Democratic Party used to have Jefferson-Jackson Day dinners because Jefferson was the hero and Jackson was the other hero of the Democratic Party. Now Jackson is verboten in the Democratic Party. Why did it change so much? He used to be a hero, and now he's not a hero. What happened?
You know, it changed pretty fast. If you go, so Arthur Schlesinger Jr. Won the Pulitzer Prize in 1946 for a book called The Age of Jackson. And if you go look in the index of that book to look about issues of Native American Cherokee removal, it is not overwhelming. Arthur did not spend a huge amount of time on that, so in 1946. By the mid-1960s, not least because of the freedom movements and the discovery, the rising, correctly by the way, consciousness about what had happened to indigenous peoples, Jackson begins to decline. I, unsurprisingly, have a slightly different view, which is I don't believe that it's fair to put the full weight of the sins of the two original sins in American life, which is the treatment of indigenous peoples and American slavery, on one person. That is, like, taking down a statue of someone might be fine, might be justified. But to blame someone for what I would call the sins of the nation lets the rest of us off the hook. And so I see Jackson, as I try to see everybody I write about, as I try to see everyone, as a complicated figure who has good days and bad days. He had sins and shortcomings. But in 1832-33, he stood up against John C. Calhoun in South Carolina and said no to a movement toward disunion that would have cut us off and arguably have taken away 2 or 3 decades of building what Lincoln would call the mystic chords of memory.
Well, he invented the idea of being a common person, and I don't have to be from the Eastern elite, and I can be president of the United States, and that is actually what a lot of modern politicians do. When they run for president, they say, I'm a common person.
Well, Lincoln followed Jackson's path, right? The first 6 American presidents were either Virginia planters or Adamses from Massachusetts. Jackson was born in the lowest rung of white society and rose to power, and did so through a force of will.